Dark Flow, Our Lady is not allowed to enter, and Tang San Party is not allowed to enter. The protagonist Huo Yuhao, who travels through time to become a Peerless Tang Sect. But it brought a strange golden finger from the blue star, transforming into a special martial soul. From then on, we embarked on a brand new path. In order to break the long-standing plan of Tang Buddha and take charge of his own destiny. I have nothing to lose anymore. Even if I resort to any means, I will go and see the scenery at the highest point. Keywords of the novel. The Heavenly Heart Douluo of the Peerless Tang Clan without a pop-up window, the complete collection download of the Peerless Tang Clan's Heavenly Heart Douluo TXT, and the latest chapter reading of the Peerless Tang Clan's Heavenly Heart Douluo. Chapter 1. Martial Soul Awakening. Second Martial Soul. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1. Martial Soul Awakening. Second Martial Soul. I have been in this world for 6 years. In the team, Huo Yuhao lowered his head and stood silently. Out of place with the joyful children around. Wearing clean yet rough clothes. He was not originally an indigenous person of this world, but came from a world without transcendence. Although he was born ordinary in that world, fortunately he was in a stable country. It can also be considered as a worry-free shirt. But for some unknown reason, I crossed the continent of Douluo. It also transformed into the protagonist of the unparalleled Tang clan in Douluo continent, Huo Yuhao. In his view, Huo Yuhao's life had already been arranged clearly and clearly. Treat, behead, and accept as a dog. When I was still at Blue Star, when I first read novels, I was quite contemptuous of Huo Yuhao. Once a great grudge, forget it as soon as you say, recognize your ancestors and return to your roots, change your surname and become a dog in one go. But now that he has truly come into this world, he has truly felt this despair firsthand. When he was born, perhaps his future had already been determined by Tang San, who had become a divine king and held high. Even though he carries unparalleled fortune as the protagonist of the world. But how is it that the protagonist, who has been a god for thousands of years, is the opponent of the author's incarnation? Although from the perspective of God, Tang San's plans and schemes seem somewhat childish. But these pediatricians are all built on his absolute strength. Even in the divine realm, Huo Yuhao cannot be his opponent. Because he became a god by inheriting the position of the first-level god, the emotional god. The compromise and the final outcome may be more of helplessness and despair. Anyway, in this era where the divine realm still exists, the gap between the divine king and the first-level god is absolute. This deep-rooted class gap is not something that can be easily leapt by words. Now, although Huo Yuhao came from the womb, what can a child under 6 years old do? Is it against the Duchess? Or to confront the rules that have remained unchanged in this world for millions of years? As a servant's child, as an illegitimate child, and also as a traveler. For him, the only thing he can protect now is himself. Knowing that Huo Yuner's soul will be taken away by Tang San as a dog chained to tame him. So if I don't get close to her, I won't be too sad if it really comes to that day. I heard that the level of innate soul power may be related to physical fitness and the nutrients absorbed before the age of 6. So I will try my best to obtain food resources by all means possible to strengthen myself. Seize every minute and second of your time to exercise, just to make your body stronger, even if it may cause harm and side effects. Even if one is contemptuous or disliked by others, it doesn't matter. Only this little bit by bit of accumulated strength will never disappoint oneself. Anyway, we must live on. Huo Yuhao said to himself, I will never become the original Huo Yuhao, the lackey of Tang San. To this day, although it is still difficult to match the aristocratic soul masters who came from a noble background, consumed soul beast meat to nourish their bodies from a young age, and were trained in warfare under the guidance of their families. But compared to the skinny, malnourished teenager in the original work, it is a world of difference. Now is the time to test all these achievements. The annual awakening of martial souls involves all 6-year-old youths from the entire Duke's mansion. I only hope to awaken a powerful martial soul to gain the favor of the Duke's mansion and be trained to become a human being. Next, Huo Yuhao. An old man's cold voice came in. What a disgusting name. Huo Yuhao thought silently, but still walked forward. With the soul power of the old man injected into the formation on the ground, Huo Yuhao felt as if an inexplicable energy had appeared in his body, flowing through his entire body. My eyes sparkle with a hint of fluorescence, appearing clear and bright. At the same time, Huo Yuhao felt that the vast majority of this energy had gathered in his chest. Bang! 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 Only the sound that one can hear echoes within oneself. The old man frowned and said, "Isn't it the evil eyes white tiger martial soul? Place your hand on the crystal ball and let me see your innate soul power." Upon hearing this, Huo Yuhao placed his hand on the crystal ball in front of him. I felt a stream of heat slowly flowing from my eyes to my hand, then entering the crystal ball and returning to my body. Unconsciously, he withdrew from the state of being possessed by a martial soul. Innate soul power level 1, martial soul eyes, step back, next one. The old man just glanced lightly and didn't say anything more. Huo Yuhao lowered his head and didn't say anything more to anyone, nor did anyone pay attention to him. Returning to his own home, Huo Yuhao looked concerned when he saw Huo Yuhao return and said, "Yuhao, how are you? Have you awakened the evil eyes and white tiger martial soul?" He tightly grasped Huo Yuhao's shoulder with both hands. Although his body was thin and weak, the power of his palms was surprisingly strong. "No, my martial soul is eyes, with innate soul power of level 1, Huo Yuhao said in a hoarse voice. Huo Yuhao was taken aback for a moment, then forced to be happy and said, "Yuhao is already great. Mom doesn't even have soul power yet. As long as she works hard, she will definitely." Before Huo Yuhao finished speaking, Huo Yuhao broke free from her palm and walked straight towards his own house. Then he locked the door and left Huo Yuhao alone in the yard. After returning to the room, the surroundings were filled with books and papers filled with densely packed handwritten texts. These are all knowledge about soul masters and cultivation that Huo Yuhao copied from various sources through his spiritual and memory abilities of 2 generations. And for the daily intelligence and common sense of various aspects in this world, after all, in this feudal-dominated world, if it weren't for being in the duchy, there would still be an illegitimate child status. The general public's desire to obtain this information and intelligence is nothing but a pipe dream. He had long known that after the awakening of the martial soul, he and Huo Yuhao would completely lose the attention that Huo Yuhao might have. It will also lead to a more severe blow from the Duchess. At that time, I would no longer have the time and opportunity to collect these things. Therefore, I prepared early. Flip open a slightly curly little notebook that has already been flipped through. The record above is the fundamental meditation of this world. A very simple principle is that after being possessed by a martial soul, imagination drives one's own spiritual power to absorb external energy and convert it into one's own spiritual power through the medium of the martial soul. Huo Yuhao has already memorized it thoroughly. Cross-legged meditation, spiritual eyes possessed, everything in front of me seemed to become clear, and then I used the method of meditation to gradually absorb external energy. But at this moment, a voice burst out from within him once again. Bang! 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 Newcomers and new books, seeking recommendations, comments, support, and collections. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Martial Soul Soul Soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Martial Soul. Soul. During meditation, Huo Yuhao's consciousness was extremely focused, and it was only then that he confirmed that this was not a heartbeat illusion caused by the excitement of awakening his martial soul earlier. There seems to be another martial soul within oneself, so it should also be the main martial soul. But why? Why do I still have a martial soul? Is this martial soul brought about by one's own journey? Huo Yuhao thought with some confusion, but his current self was also unclear about what this martial soul could bring to him. However, the only thing that can be confirmed is that it seems to be different from other twin martial souls. Will my martial soul be possessed simultaneously when my spiritual eyes are possessed? No, more precisely, as long as one uses soul power, this martial soul will become uncontrollable and possessed. And unlike Lingmo, this martial soul seems to have another part of its own soul power, but it cannot be used by itself. And you can also transfer the soul power of your spiritual eyes to it, but it will make it impossible to remove this part of the soul power. When testing innate soul power earlier, only the soul power inherent in the spirit eye was actually detected. And now, while meditating, I realized that my current cultivation speed is beyond the ability of innate first-level soul power. Lingmo and this mysterious second martial soul jointly pull the external soul power, forming a bidirectional pulling valve. Although I don't know exactly what this represents, at least it should still have innate level 5 or 6 soul power. Although I don't know your actual ability, since you are like my heartbeat, then I will call you Soul Martial Soul, whether you are my travel welfare or anything, but I believe that with you, the future will not be even worse. Looking at the sky outside the window, a different expression appeared in Huo Yuhao's eyes for the first time. It was also the first time that Huo Yuhao took the initiative to come to Huo Yun'er's door and gently knocked on it. Since moving to his own room a year ago, this is his first time coming back. Huo Yun'er's eyes were tinged with tears, and he was clearly surprised to see Huo Yuhao. What's wrong, Yuhao? Are you feeling any discomfort? Huo Yu'er asked with some concern as she withdrew her tears from the corners of her eyes. After all, Huo Yuhao's behavior since childhood was to not cry or make a fuss, extremely sensible. Huo Yuhao gently hugged Huo Yu'er, who froze in place and didn't know what Huo Yuhao was thinking for a moment. Sorry, Mom, you're worried. Huo Yuhao's face was buried on Huo Yun'er's shoulder. In the future, Yuhao will not make his mother sad anymore, and he will work even harder. Huo Yun'er also hugged Huo Yuhao with both hands, but at this moment, he couldn't see Huo Yuhao's expression clearly. I just feel that this child who has been close and distant from me since childhood seems to have become somewhat different. Perhaps this is when he finally becomes closer to himself. That's also a good thing, right? Yuhao is the most obedient. Huo Yu'er had a joyful smile on her lips. At this moment, Huo Yuhao's face buried on Huo Yun'er's shoulder remained as indifferent as usual. Nowadays, I am different from the Huo Yuhao in the original work, having a variable second martial soul. But since that's the case, it may attract Tang San's unnecessary attention. After all, the soul of his cheap mother may have long been targeted by Tang San. If, when he comes to collect his soul, he observes himself on the way but discovers that his behavior is abnormal, even if he cannot interfere with things on Douluo continent at will. But ultimately, it is a hidden danger. Now that I have the possibility to resist fate, regardless of whether this possibility is large or small, he couldn't continue to mess up as he had done before. It's just a fight. Anyway, I have already lost my life once when I was on the Blue Star, so why be afraid now? Even if it's just exploitation, after all, I've never been a good person. Huo Yuhao thought so. From now on, it seems that Huo Yuhao has returned to his original destiny trajectory. Effort in cultivation, but due to the low innate soul power, it is always difficult to break through. At the age of 10, his mother passed away due to a secret injury. Huo Yuhao endured the humiliation and continued to practice as a servant in the Duke's mansion. Another year passed before finally reaching level 10 soul power. Far away in the divine realm, with the help of the central power of the divine realm, Tang San nodded satisfactorily and looked at the crystal in his hand that contained Huo Yun'er's soul. Then, as he watched Huo Yuhao leave the Duke's mansion in the lower realm, he thought to himself. In this way, the son of fate will definitely not escape from the palm of my hand. If you want to change your innate qualifications, you must search for heavenly materials and earthly treasures, and the heavenly materials and earthly treasures on this continent have already been searched by me in the eyes of the ice and fire Liani. If he doesn't join our Tang men, I have reason to take action after he enters. If he has already joined Tang men before, then he is even less likely to resist me. In this way, even destruction has no reason to intervene. The first climax of the Millennium Plan is finally coming. Son of Fate, don't let me down. Looking at another place, Tangya and Bei left Shrek Academy to obtain soul rings. The two of them embarked on their journey to the Star Forest without informing any mentor or senior. This is also the work of our Tang God King, although the opportunities to intervene in the divine realm are limited. But as long as you act on your own, how can you possibly come back without success? What is the connection between Huo Yuhao, who has only 10 levels of soul power and a weak body, and the intersection between Bei and Tangya after encountering them, and my pure Tang San Shao? The image of Douluo continent in the center of the divine realm slowly dissipates. After all, the amount of divine power consumed by forcibly adjusting the time nodes between the divine realm and Douluo continent is also considerable. Even Tang San, who is a divine king, cannot use it frequently, otherwise he will definitely be discovered by the destructive divine king. If that's really the case, it will be a big trouble. The back door on the north side of the Duke's mansion quietly opened, and a sturdy figure quietly slipped out. That was a boy who looked 14 or 15 years old, with a well-proportioned figure and full muscles. He was dressed in clean cloth, with deep blue eyes and clear and bright. Carrying a small bundle, there was only some dry food, a map, and a short dagger inside. This person is Huo Yuhao, who has used his second martial soul to transfer 90% of his accumulated soul power over the past 6 years. This suppressed the soul power of his spiritual eyes on his face until he broke through level 10 at the age of 11. In fact, only he himself now knows that although the second martial soul does not have an additional soul ring, it is not bound by the rules of this world. The soul power among them has already exceeded level 20, and when he broke through levels 10 and 20, he found that the martial soul had actually self-condensed 2 soul rings. And even if it is a martial soul possession, it will not be revealed and is still hidden within oneself. And as the soul ring is formed, I also understand the true effect of this martial soul. It is the result of one's own obsession when traveling, using faith as the power to pry the rules of the world, and therefore not bound by the laws of Douluo continent. It can self-condense soul rings and also work together with the first martial soul. And the soul skills it brings are also exceptionally powerful newcomers and new books, seeking recommendations, comments, support, and collections. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. First meeting with Tang Yabei. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. First meeting with Tang Yabei. The first soul skill of martial soul is called Heart Wall, which originates from the ability of a traveler to resist the world and transform resistance to building connections with others. Being able to form a strong defensive stance around oneself to block external attacks is almost impossible to be broken by the same level of attack methods. Moreover, as long as one's own beliefs become more firm during the performance, the barriers built will become thicker. However, this is only a superficial effect. In fact, the true strength of this ability lies in the absolute defense of the spirit and soul. This is because the essence of Huo Yuhao's soul comes from the Blue Star, a world completely different from Douluo continent, and the legal authority of Douluo continent itself is weaker than that of the Blue Star universe. Therefore, souls born from the Blue Star will possess strength beyond the world level of Douluo continent. Even if it is limited by the physical body and cannot be used freely, its true power will gradually be liberated with the improvement of martial soul and soul. The second soul skill is called Heart Meaning, which is a soul skill formed by Huo Yuhao's realization of the true power of martial soul and soul after the first soul skill, Heart Wall, awakened. The most essential power of the martial soul is to have a mind that thinks and a mind that points, and to use one's own beliefs to reverse the rules of the world and modify the existence of reality. The heart of heaven is my heart, and my intention is the will of heaven. As long as one firmly believes it, even if it is false, it will turn into reality, and even if it is true, it will turn into falsehood. These two soul skills consume not soul power, but rather the spirit of Huo Yuhao himself, or more precisely, his own beliefs. Rather than being a soul skill, it is more like the ability inherent in a martial soul, just like the possession of a beast's martial soul, the incantation of a food's martial soul, and so on. Martial soul. Soul rings cannot be added to the soul at all. As soul power increases, the enhancement is actually the degree and influence of one's own beliefs on the immersion and erosion of reality. Huo Yuhao also understood that no matter how his soul power was improved, the martial soul and soul would not acquire new abilities anymore, only making these two abilities stronger and stronger today. The so-called soul ring was only born to adapt to the world, perhaps his ultimate appearance is the appearance without a soul ring. Nowadays, he is more convinced of his existence and the correctness of the path he has taken. Taking a final glance at the White Tiger Duke's mansion, he spoke coldly, "I will come back, but not now." Even though he had been prepared for it earlier, the bullying he had suffered in the Duke's mansion in recent years was still real. Huo Yuhao, who understood the essence of his second martial soul, naturally knew that only by implementing his spirit of freedom can he truly utilize its power. And every account in the White Tiger Duke's mansion was firmly recorded by him in his heart. We embarked on the road to the Star Forest and walked for about 6 days before finally reaching the outer forest of the Star Forest. At this moment, he heard the sound of flowing water, and his innate strong spiritual power reminded him of the present. It should be here that Huo Yuhao will encounter Tang and Yabei who come to hunt soul rings. Later, due to Huo Yuhao's unparalleled skill in grilled fish in this book, it ultimately attracted the favor of Tang and Yabei, and then led to a series of subsequent additions to the Tang clan. To be honest, Huo Yuhao nowadays has no ill feelings towards Tang and Yabei. Yabei, a seemingly elegant hypocrite, is able to openly let Huo Yuhao share cheating while using mental detection, and engage in fraudulent matches with Su Sancher, saying and doing one thing at a time. Tang, a woman who couldn't figure out her own identity, used the name of revenge to stain the blood of countless innocent people, but in the end, she was washed away with a repentant attitude because she was the leader of the Tang sect. But Huo Yuhao already knew he wasn't a good person, so he didn't have any psychological burden about it. Don't even talk about his second brother, Big Brother. Whether or not to join the Tang clan is the question he is thinking at this moment. Joining the Tang clan means being directly watched by Tang San, but it is so clever to encounter Tang and Yabei here. If it weren't for Tang San personally handling it, Huo Yuhao could not come up with a suitable reason even if he wanted to break his mind. Extreme Douluo, the great-grandson of dragon god Douluo Moon, and a student of Shrek College, the first academy in mainland China, came confidently to the notorious Star Forest to hunt soul rings without teachers or elders leading the team. You should know that it is extremely difficult to find a soul ring that is suitable for the year and race, without the premise of excluding the son of fate such as Huo Yuhao and the human form cheat. Why did soul masters team up to come? Is it just because soul beasts are powerful? Wrong. That's because even on the outskirts of the starry forest, there may be soul beasts that do not fit the ecosystem. And with alternating day and night patrols, if there is no guarantee of sufficient combat power and spirit to deal with the attacks of soul beasts, then coming here is no different from dying. But if you don't join the Tang clan, as mentioned earlier, the divine King Tang San personally arranged to invite you to join the Tang clan. Is it possible for you to still want to leave? Therefore, Huo Yuhao was also a bit restless. He came to the side of the stream and waved his hand. Under the influence of his heart's will, the originally scattered and uncontrollable soul power was forcibly condensed into a palm and directly inserted into the water under the influence of his beliefs. In no time, the soul power palm flipped through the water and caught several 1-foot-long green fish, throwing them onto the shore. Almost there, Huo Yuhao raised a bonfire, and the green fish were automatically put on and placed next to the fire after being processed by soul power palm. A charming fragrance emanated, and Soul Power's palm occasionally sprinkled seasoning to control the heat. Even if Huo Yuhao did not intervene, the will remaining in his Soul Power palm would automatically do everything well. This is also a small part of the effect of Huo Yuhao's development of heart meaning. At least in terms of his own control, Huo Yuhao, who had a deliberate intention, can be said to be unparalleled in the mainland, almost unmatched by anyone. How fragrant! At this moment, a pleasantly surprised cry sounded, with a clear and pleasant sound. Are you here? Huo Yuhao thought to himself, his gaze fixed on the place where the sound came from. A 15 or 16-year-old girl, with long black hair combed into a ponytail hanging behind her, dressed in a pale blue outfit that outlined a youthful aura, with phoenix eyes, melon seed face, and a delicate appearance. Following behind the girl was a young man who looked similar in age to her, with a slender and straight figure, short dark blue hair, and a rather elegant and handsome appearance. His face carried a hint of a lazy and gentle smile. Tangya ran to Huo Yuhao's side with a cheerful smile and said, "Little brother, do you sell this grilled fish? It smells so good. How did you do it?" Huo Yuhao's face remained unchanged and he spoke directly, "1 gold soul coin, 1 piece." Upon hearing this, the atmosphere suddenly became somewhat awkward. Although Tangya and Beibei have also eaten food measured in gold soul coins in the academy, they are all cooked using soul beasts as raw materials. But this grilled fish is really just an ordinary grilled fish. Huo Yuhao smiled and said, "In that case, let me see what Tang San will do next to lure me into the Tang Sect." Newcomers and new books, seeking recommendations, comments, support, and collections. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The Enemy of Life. The Winged Baboon. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The Enemy of Life. The Winged Baboon. Beibei's face remained unchanged, but her smile remained gentle. She threw out 2 golden soul coins. Although the price was outrageous, she naturally didn't want to lose face in front of Tangya. Moreover, just 2 golden soul coins are really nothing to him. As 2 golden soul coins were about to fall to the ground, a semi-transparent soul power palm caught them. Then another soul power palm handed the 2 grilled fish next to the fire to Beibei and Tangya. Upon seeing this, Tangya took the grilled fish in a fit of anger, took a fierce bite as if venting, then hesitated for a moment before wolfing it down. But Beibei looked at the grilled fish in his hand but didn't immediately move his mouth. Instead, he was thinking about his soul power palm just now. Did he create his own soul skill without a soul ring appearing? But how could he not see his martial soul possessed? Although with doubts in her heart, Beibei still sat next to Tangya and ate calmly, much more elegant than Tangya. Huo Yuhao casually put the golden soul coin into his wallet, and a smile hung on the corner of his mouth. He had already made a plan before coming to the Star Forest. During these 6 years, he also found ways to inquire about information belonging to the ontological sect. I also considered whether to join the ontology sect and not enter the site of Tang San. Or they could go to the Sun and Moon Empire to study soul guides. But in the end, these 2 proposals were still rejected by him for no other reason. Huo Yuhao doesn't know if Tang San would shamelessly take action directly after he deviates from the original route, although he is now contrary to the original work. Having a power that doesn't belong to this world as a trump card, but now I am still too weak. And in practice, without considering Tang San personally taking action. As a college, Shrek's regulation is definitely more lenient than that of the Sun Moon Empire and the ontological sect. If one wants to plan the opportunities and make other moves in the original work, it is obviously more convenient. Do you still want to eat it? The second grilled fish is half price. Huo Yuhao took a grilled fish from the fire and spoke slowly. Tangya had already finished the grilled fish in her hand and looked at it eagerly. Upon hearing this, she turned her head to look at Beibei, her 2 big eyes eagerly anticipating it. Beibei gave a bitter smile and handed out 2 gold soul coins. Huo Yuhao took one of them. Hand over 2 grilled fish. Seeing Yabei and Tanya eating again, Huo Yuhao nodded in satisfaction as he felt the power of his belief in the grilled fish transfer into their bodies. The power of faith is different from the soul and spiritual power of this world, and can almost be said to belong exclusively to the power system of Huo Yuhao. Therefore, there is no need to be afraid of being discovered by others, and the power of belief works through subtle influence rather than direct tampering. Unless used in the face of strong individuals with extremely strong self-awareness, it can be said to be invincible. Although it's just 2 idle moves, may there be times when it can be used. Yabei and Tanya finished the grilled fish and let go of their previous guard as they looked at Huo Yuhao. Although the fee for this grilled fish is a bit high, the taste is really not good, and as the saying goes, free is the most expensive. After spending so much money, they naturally wouldn't have thought that Huo Yuhao would leave other means in the grilled fish, only feeling that this young man was quite pleasing to the eye. Huo Yuhao finished the grilled fish in his hand, controlled his soul power to clean up all the bonfire and food debris here, and looked at Tanya and Yabei sitting on the ground resting, saying, "Both of you, keep eating, and I'll leave first." Then Huo Yuhao turned around and left without looking back, leaving the 2 of them in place. Tanya lay on the grass, stretching lazily and saying, "I'm so full, so delicious. I didn't expect this little brother to be so skilled." Yabei looked at Huo Yuhao's departure and said, "The direction this little brother is heading seems to be the starry forest. Xiaoya, should we follow up and take a look?" "Ah. Why?" Xiaoya's eyes revealed a clear and untainted knowledge. Looking at Tanya, who was charming and silly, Yabei first smiled bitterly and then explained. "Didn't you notice just now? This little brother's grilled fish isn't using his soul technique, but a self-created soul technique. And from my perception, his soul power level will never be too high, and judging from his clothing, his background may not be too good. Although my soul power is still so low at the age of 14 or 15, my innate soul power is definitely not too high. But he is able to create his own soul skills at such a low level of soul power, and this talent can also be said to be arrogant of his peers." At this time, neither Yabei nor Tanya knew that Huo Yuhao's true age was only 11 years old. It is only because of the dual effects of heart intention and sufficient nutrition that development far surpasses that of peers. Moreover, due to the influence of the will of the heart, even if one tries to squeeze their own body no matter how, they can all recover under the power of faith, without leaving any hidden wounds. Therefore, the current physical fitness of Huo Yuhao has actually surpassed that of ordinary soul warriors, at least at the level of soul master physical fitness. Upon hearing Beibei's words, Tanya's eyes lit up and she said, "It's a bit strange to hear you say that. In that case, can we invite this young brother to join the Tang men?" Beibei nodded and then spoke, "But it's still a bit too early to say these things now." This little brother's attitude was quite indifferent just now. He should have been a solitary person, and even when he entered the Star Forest alone, he didn't find anyone to accompany him. Maybe there will be a threat, if we can help him, maybe. Upon hearing this, Tanya nodded repeatedly, picked up Beibei, and ran towards the starry forest, saying, "Then why don't you leave quickly? I want to be able to eat such delicious grilled fish in the future." Beibei smiled helplessly and was led forward by Tanya. Passing by the wooden plaque in front of the Star Forest, Huo Yuhao has arrived at the outer area of the Star Forest. Surrounded by vitality, but with hidden murders, Huo Yuhao's eyes closed slightly. Over the past 6 years, although 90% of his soul power has been filled into his second martial soul, but he also intentionally used the power of his heart to temper his spiritual power, leveraging the foundation of his character and the advantages of his spiritual eyes and martial soul. Nowadays, I have almost gained the spiritual power of the spiritual realm, and my perception of danger has greatly increased. With his spiritual eyes possessed and enhanced vision and perception, Huo Yuhao saw a black figure by a tree in the distance, scratching his ears and cheeks. It is Huo Guo's lifelong enemy, the wind baboon who almost killed the god. Huo Yuhao's face remained unchanged, different from the protagonist in the original work. After arriving in this world, he knew that there was only one truth in this world. That is the law of the jungle, where the winner is the king. In the past few years, although it was not a life and death battle with the Duchess's minions, they have accumulated a lot of combat experience. It is naturally different from Huo Yuhao, a novice in the original work. A soul power palm appeared in front of him, grabbed the white tiger dagger, and hid by the edge of the grass. The other soul power palm grabbed a stone and smashed it towards the wind baboon 100 meters away. Newcomers and new books, seeking recommendations, comments, support, and collections. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Heavenly Dream Ice Silkworm arrives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Heavenly Dream Ice Silkworm arrives. Upon hearing the sound of the stones breaking through the air, the wind baboon suddenly felt startled and dodged this probing blow. Then he charged towards Huo Yuhao. The soul power palms around kept picking up stones from the ground and throwing them at the wind baboon, with low damage but extremely insulting. The already irritable wind baboon had red eyes, and when it approached Huo Yuhao 10 meters away, it suddenly jumped up and directly descended from the sky to pounce on him. Huo Yuhao turned his body slightly and surprisingly did not dodge the blow. The wind baboon's expression gradually turned violent in his eyes, as if he thought his victory had been decided. As the wind baboon's arms fell, ripples seemed to appear in the air between it and Huo Yuhao, which was the wall of the heart. It hit hard with a powerful and heavy blow, and due to the reaction force and inertia, it pounced on the ground to the side. On the ground, a soul power palm holding a dagger darted out like a venomous snake. Insert directly from the chin of the wind baboon and penetrate his brain. The battle had already ended between lightning, fire, and stones, and the wind baboon couldn't help but wonder why the opponent's soul power was not strong when he was dying. In just one breath, I died here. A white soul ring was about to emerge, and Huo Yuhao's eyes narrowed slightly, trying to imagine the situation where this wind baboon would condense a soul bone. The white soul ring fluctuated slightly and then dissipated into the air. And Huo Yuhao's spiritual power felt that the soul power of the white soul ring seemed to gather on the right hand of the wind baboon. As the white tiger dagger swung, a bright white right arm bone appeared in front of Huo Yuhao. But it looks more like a metacarpal bone than an arm bone. In terms of soul bones, the more complete the soul bone, the higher its effectiveness. Because in addition to the soul skills it brings, soul bones also enhance the physical strength of the absorbed area. This is also the greatest function of soul bones. Although the generation of soul beasts and soul bones can only be seen from the face, it is said that after cultivating for thousands of years, soul beasts may condense soul cores belonging to soul beasts in their bodies. When soul beasts die, the soul core will transform into a soul ring. The most powerful or special soul core will also affect their bones, resulting in the appearance of soul bones. But there is no absolute thing in the world, and the original work contains the refining of the secret soul bone. Therefore, in Huo Yuhao's view, the so-called soul bone is just a product of soul power aggregation. By interfering with the will of the heart, the energy of the soul ring is forcibly condensed into the soul beast skeleton, solidifying it into a soul bone. Although recent experiments have found that soul beasts with low cultivation levels, even if they successfully condense soul bones, will still have soul bones similar to these inferior items. However, soul bones are just soul bones, and even the most useless value of 1,000 gold coins is effortless. However, although the experiment was successful, Huo Yuhao found that his belief power had also been greatly depleted. It seems that even if it affects the soul beast for 10 years, it will consume a lot of belief power. However, in this way, compared to the original work, I may be able to gather a unique set of soul bones. Or rather, one's own divine costume. After all, referring to the growth of Tang San in the original work, the 8 spider spears eventually grew into the wings of the sea god. Although it is unclear why this thing, which has nothing to do with the sea, can be the wings of the sea god, and so on. If you can collect 7 soul bones that fit and relate to each other, then empower them with the power of faith. This idea has a great possibility of success, and with the method of strengthening soul bones, the success rate of implementing this plan has greatly increased. Although the soul bone of the wind baboon was incomplete, after thinking about it, Huo Yuhao still collected the large tuition and meal fees that he would have to pay if he enrolled in Shrek. No matter how much garbage it is, it can still be thrown into the Jubao pavilion to exchange for money. As for which unlucky ghost may have absorbed this garbage soul bone, it has nothing to do with oneself. At this moment, Huo Yuhao felt as if the wall of his mind had been hit by something. Then a confused voice rang in Huo Yuhao's ear. "Oh, what's going on? How come my spiritual energy can't enter your mind?" The ground beneath Huo Yuhao cracked, and a golden white light emerged with a cold chill. Then there was a seemingly fleshy one, with a diameter of over 1 meter, and a big bug wriggling slowly and crawling out, with a body length of over 7 meters. It is the most useless million-year soul beast in history, the heavenly dream ice silkworm. "What are you?" Huo Yuhao pretended to be shocked, but his heart remained calm. He came here to subdue the heavenly dream ice silkworm. This is also the most important cheat in Huo Yuhao's life, the starting point of his cheating career. Even the fleeting million-year soul power will still last for 1,000,000 years. If you can take it down, you can definitely make rapid progress in a short period of time. Moreover, if one masters the powerful spiritual power of the heavenly dream ice silkworm and imbues it with the meaning of the heart, even if an ordinary title Douluo attacks them, they have the means to escape. In this way, the security will also be greatly improved. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. Tianmeng ice silkworm nodded at Huo Yuhao, her huge head hanging down and stopping 1 meter away. Although I don't know why you can block my spiritual power, there is no doubt that you are definitely a soul master with spiritual attributes, which really makes me burst into tears. So, what are you doing? I didn't sense any malice from you, Huo Yuhao pretended to calm down and then said. Let me introduce myself first. I am the embodiment of heroes and chivalry. The Soul Beast King, who values both wisdom and beauty, is an unparalleled powerhouse. For millions of years of cultivation, the heavenly dream ice silkworm has set a record for the highest lifespan in Douluo continent. You can call me heavenly dream brother. So, what does the million-year soul beast want to do to me? This little soul master pretended to be afraid and hugged himself. Huo Yuhao thought to let Tianmeng ice silkworm let go of his guard. After all, one can isolate the other's spiritual detection, although the original work states that Huo Yuhao is the only soul master who can adapt to the heavenly dream ice silkworm. But now, who can say it well? Tianmeng ice silkworm must let go of her guard before she can confidently fall into her trap. After all, I want to accumulate the life of the heavenly dream ice silkworm, and I don't want him to enter my spiritual sea and read my memories. The voice of Tianmeng ice silkworm became solemn. Brother, I want to become your soul ring, the first intelligent soul ring unprecedented in the history of Douluo continent. Tianmeng ice silkworm looked at the starry forest and said, time is running out, I need to start now. Don't worry, I will take it lightly and won't cause you too much pain. Let's explain it after everything is over. Subsequently, an extremely cold breath instantly made Huo Yuhao lose consciousness. He only vaguely saw a white object rushing towards him. 10 golden halos quickly enveloped Huo Yuhao's body, while the heavenly dream ice silkworm itself transformed into white halos constantly surging into his body. A layer of intangible spiritual fluctuations spread outward from the heavenly dream ice silkworm as it surged towards Huo Yuhao's body. The terrifying spiritual power instantly covered every corner within 100 miles in diameter. At this moment, most of the southern end of the starry forest was eerily quiet, and all living beings lost their ability to think in a short period of time. In the next moment, in the Sea of Spirit, newcomers and new books, seeking recommendations, comments, support, and collections. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The Disappearance of Electrolux. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The Disappearance of Electrolux. What's going on here? Tianmeng Ice Silkworm looked bewildered. I see that unlike ordinary people, the pure white sea of spirit or spiritual space is different. The sea of Huo Yuhao's spirit is filled with dense gates, each of which is entangled with countless chains. And there are golden barriers separating each door from the other. And this is precisely the actual manifestation of the wall of the heart. In Huo Yuhao's spiritual sea, the isolation of the wall of the heart is absolute. After entering this place, the heavenly dream ice silkworm was isolated in an independent space by the six-faced heart wall. Outside the wall of the heart, Huo Yuhao met his eyes. And the vast spiritual power of Tianmeng Ice Silkworm is divided layer by the wall of the heart, transforming into a small part and storing it up. Now, let's talk about it, Heavenly Dream Ice Silkworm. Unlike Huo Yuhao who had just been acting scared outside. At this moment, Huo Yuhao took off his emotional mask and looked indifferently at the Heavenly Dream Ice Silkworm in front of him. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm couldn't help but feel a little creepy as she watched this unimaginable scene. Who the hell are you? My name is Huo Yuhao, and I will be your master from now on, Huo Yuhao said as he looked at the big bug in front of him. Damn it, what have you done to me? My spiritual power, why? Tianmeng angrily tried to mobilize his spiritual and soul power to resist. But his spiritual power has long been isolated layer by the wall of the heart, and his soul power has also lost contact with him along with his spiritual power. At this moment, the outside world. The sky, which had been extremely clear the moment before, suddenly darkened, and a thunderous roar sounded in the high sky. In that moment, the sun's rays were completely obscured by darkness. A breathless and immense pressure descended from the sky. A gray airflow descended from the sky as if encountering a huge suction, but in an instant, it landed on the back of Huo Yuhao's head and quietly penetrated. But at the moment when the gray airflow entered the sea of Huo Yuhao's spirit, the walls of the heart accumulate layer by layer, and under the influence of the level of divine consciousness, even the walls of the heart are broken. But Huo Yuhao's face remained unchanged, and in the sea of spirit, the chains on each door gradually opened. The golden wall of the heart turned pitch black, enveloping the gray airflow. In the middle door, a young man with black hair and pupils, who looked almost the same as Huo Yuhao himself, opened his eyes. The golden wall of the heart represents the soul of Huo Yuhao, while the pitch-black wall of the heart is the essence of the traveler. Even the high-level Ilix consciousness, who reaches the level of divine consciousness, cannot break through the isolation of the dark walls of the heart after entering the sea of spirit. Holding the sun, moon, and stars, there is no one like me in the world. An old voice rang out. I can't believe that my residual consciousness will dissipate here. It's just a matter of fate. The gray airflow transformed into an illusory figure, accompanied by a collision with the wall of the heart, and the final consciousness of Alex's residual consciousness was about to be erased. Electrolux did not make any other struggles. After all, forcibly breaking into the sea of spirit is not a moral thing. Nowadays, he can almost be considered as someone who has seen through the world, so naturally he will not harm Huo Yuhao again. With the collapse of Alex's consciousness, the dark walls of the heart stacked up one by one, sealing all the memories contained in Alex's residual consciousness. Transformed into a new door, and on this door, there is an image of an old man, with a divine aura all over his body, but also carrying a dying and lifeless aura. This. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm looked bewildered. In the confrontation between Huo Yuhao and Ilix just now, he could sense that although the power of this residual consciousness was not much, its essence was extremely high. Unexpectedly, he was also erased by Huo Yuhao. Thinking about himself in the sea of Huo Yuhao's spirit at this moment, he couldn't help but shudder. How are you thinking? Surrender, or die. Huo Yuhao successfully resisted the entry of Electrolux and breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. If you submit, I can take you to become a god. After all, isn't that what you are asking for? Although Huo Yuhao can imprison the heavenly dream ice silkworm at this time, the essence of the heart wall is not harm. With his current abilities, he cannot actually harm the heavenly dream ice silkworm. At this moment, he is purely deceiving the heavenly dream ice silkworm without understanding. Although the dream ice silkworm has accumulated millions of years of soul and spiritual power today, without the help of the heavenly dream ice silkworm, it would require a lot of time to refine and fully control it. Therefore, it is better to try to tame the heavenly dream ice silkworm. Although in the original work, Electrolux is indeed one of the few good people and virtuous elders among all Tang San's books. But unfortunately, I am not the original innocent Huo Yuhao. I am a traveler with countless secrets, and I am not a good person myself. I naturally wouldn't expect to be recognized by Electrolux. I thought that after resisting Electrolux move in, the other party might explode this strand of divine consciousness. I didn't expect that he would choose to leave his own memories, which can be considered another kind of inheritance. For himself, this may be a greater gain than getting the heavenly dream ice silkworm. If we can fully grasp it, the possibility of breaking free from Tang San's control in the future will be even greater. Moreover, the spatial key of the half-plane of the undead also exists here, so even if you encounter Tang San's two extreme Douluo level dogs, you can still run away if you want to. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm naturally did not know what Huo Yuhao was thinking at this moment, trembling on the side. However, upon hearing Huo Yuhao's promise, she was overjoyed and said, I am willing to submit. He, who has lived for millions of years, is not a proud and resolute soul beast. On the contrary, he is extremely greedy and afraid of death, which is why he can endure the oppression of fierce beasts in the starry forest for nearly 100,000 years without self-destructing and dying. Although Huo Yuhao has a huge deviation from his previous imagination, he has such abilities at a young age, and with his own strength, the possibility of becoming a god was much greater than before when he casually sought guidance from a spiritual soul master. The shackles were re-tied, and the door openings were closed again. As the middle door closed, the pitch-black walls of the heart turned golden again. Huo Yuhao lightly tapped the door symbolizing the memory of Alex, extracted the information of the master.slave contract, and spoke to Tianmeng Ice Silkworm. In the name of Huo Yuhao, I have signed a master.slave contract with Tianmeng Ice Silkworm. I am the master, you are the follower, the master will die, and I will never disobey the master's will. Do you have any objections? As the spell was recited, it consumed the soul and spiritual power of the heavenly dream ice silkworm. A magic formation slowly rose, enveloping the heavenly dream ice silkworm. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm knew that once she took this step, she really couldn't turn back, but now that it was over, she gritted her teeth and said, I am willing. The formation slowly shrank and transformed into a seal, connecting with the laws of the world and carving into the body of the heavenly dream ice silkworm. At this point, the contract was established. Newcomers and new books, seeking recommendations, comments, support, and collections. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Tang Sect Invitation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Tang Sect Invitation. As the contract was completed, the wall of the heart that sealed the heavenly dream ice silkworm also began to crumble layer by layer, more precisely, the wall of the heart that blocked him from spiritual and soul power. In the outermost corner of the Sea of Spirits, the wall of the heart separates the heavenly dream ice silkworm from his soul power and spiritual power, as well as Huo Yuhao's own Sea of Spirits. Now, cooperate with me and sacrifice your soul ring and soul bone to me, Huo Yuhao slowly spoke, while strands of dark belief power seeped out from the locked door in the middle, spreading to Huo Yuhao's external body. With the cooperation of Tianmeng Ice Silkworm, the massive soul power and spiritual power are sealed and cut layer by layer, which can be used by Huo Yuhao at any time externally. The pitch-black sky gradually returned to its original form, with terrifying thunderbolts raging in the air. but unable to descend due to the power of the law when Electrolux broke through. And on Huo Yuhao's body, a white halo slowly emerged, entwined with 10 golden patterns. Then, the color of the golden ring slowly faded, and the dark power of faith wrapped around this soul ring. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm could feel that this soul ring seemed to be gradually deviating from its original control. It knew what Huo Yuhao was doing, but due to the master-slave contract, it could not resist Huo Yuhao's ideas. Originally, the heavenly dream ice silkworm slowly dissipated from the outside world, transforming into a white light. It was supposed to fully integrate into Huo Yuhao's body and transform into his blank martial soul, but it was blocked by the dark wall of the heart. Finally, under the influence of the dark heart, it transformed into an external soul bone in the form of skin, attached to the surface of Huo Yuhao's body. As the dust settled, the power of these pitch-black beliefs was completely consumed. And the power of thunder punishment also dissipated after falling at several fierce beasts in the starry forest with strength reaching the level of fierce beasts, as they could not feel the existence that did not belong to this world. At this moment, only one relic remained on the ground, and finally, under the traction of spiritual power, it quickly shrunk and condensed into a ball that disappeared into Huo Yuhao's arms. At this point, this million-year-old soul beast, Tianmeng Ice Silkworm, has nothing left in this world. Everything here has returned to calm, except for the body left by the wind baboon, which proves the battles that have occurred here before. Before long, two figures rushed towards this place, and it was Yabei and Tanya. At this moment, Huo Yuhao also opened his eyes and sat up calmly. After all, his physical fitness and spiritual will are vastly different from the original Huo Yuhao. "Little brother, are you okay?" Tanya became worried for no reason as he looked at the body of the wind baboon beside him. And Yabei also noticed the body of the wind baboon, and also noticed that the wind baboon was injured in addition to its right hand. There was only a fatal injury that pierced through the head from the chin, while Huo Yuhao was not injured except for some dust on his body, so he nodded slightly. "I didn't expect that although this young brother's soul power level is not high, it seems that his actual combat experience should be very strong." Huo Yuhao shook his head and spoke coldly, "What's up?" After Tanya and Yabei caught up, they found that it was different from what they had imagined. Seeing Huo Yuhao's appearance, they didn't need their help at all. The original plan to win over was also in vain. But for some reason, Tanya suddenly had an irresistible idea in her heart. "We must let this little brother join the Tang Sect, we must. It is precisely the handwriting left by Tang San, otherwise why would the original Tanya inexplicably fall in love with a strange child? Is it true that it is because grilled fish is so delicious that it is beyond measure?" Tanya clenched her fist and said, "Little brother, it's still very dangerous for you to be alone in the star forest. You haven't entered the outer circle yet, when you encountered an attack from a soul beast. Do you want to take action with us next? It will be much safer, and if you want to hunt soul rings, we can also help you." Yabei looked at Xiaoya, who was inexplicably enthusiastic and somewhat strange, but he also fell in love with Tanya's kindness. Huo Yuhao shook his head at the words and said, "I'm going to Shrek to enroll next. I already have a soul ring." A deep yellow and slightly purple soul ring emerged from Huo Yuhao, emitting the aura of a century-old soul ring. And as the soul ring appeared, a faint golden luster appeared on Huo Yuhao's deep blue eyes. Yabei and Tanya could both feel the soul power fluctuations in his eyes and a mental wave that made them momentarily dazed. Yabei was somewhat shocked at the sight. He thought that Huo Yuhao's low soul power was due to his lack of talent and lack of family help. Naturally, he could not have imagined that his first soul ring was actually a century-old soul ring that was close to 1,000 years old. And the opponent's martial soul should be the spiritual attribute of the main martial soul, and it is also the type of high-level martial soul. But since I heard him say he's going to Shrek to enroll next, is it that he's not even 12 years old? So his development seems too advanced, right? But in that case, this cultivation also makes sense. If you are only an 11 or 12-year-old soul master, you may fall behind in the cultivation of soul power due to learning some common knowledge and training in the soul master world. In addition, due to factors such as innate soul power, having only one ring is also normal, and I have previously seen Huo Yuhao use his self-created soul skills and the combat power to easily kill the winged baboon. It seems that the other party may also be the type of soul master who focuses on early training foundations. Although this situation is not common, there are still some, and it is reasonable to say that the other party's martial soul is the main body martial soul. Oh, are you also planning to participate in Shrek's entrance examination, little brother? Yabei and I are also Shrek students. Maybe you will call us senior sister in the future. Tang smiled and said, "What's your name, little brother?" "My name is Tang. Tang from the Tang clan, this is Yabei, my disciple." Yabei smiled helplessly and nodded to Huo Yuhao. Huo Yuhao. Upon hearing this, Huo Yuhao nodded coldly to the two of them. "Is there anything else I need to do? I have to leave." Despite this, Tang's passion in her heart was unstoppable. "It's like this, little brother. Would you like to join me and Yabei's sect? We used to be the first sect in the mainland, Tang Sect." Huo Yuhao's gaze swept over Tang and Yabei, and a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "Oh, have you heard of the Tang clan in legend?" "I have heard of it, but I have heard that the Tang clan has declined and declined." "So what's going on?" Tang's eyes turned red and he forced himself to remain calm, saying, "Although Tangmen is not as good as before, we will definitely make Tangmen regain its glory." At this moment, Yabei also spoke up and said, "If you are willing, there is a martial art in Tangmen that should be very suitable for your cultivation. It will be very beneficial for your future development. And given your current soul power, joining Shrek Academy may not be that easy, right? But if you join our Tangmen, there will be an exemption spot for Shrek Academy every year, and we can give you this spot. Shrek College is the first college in mainland China. It's not that easy to get into." Huo Yuhao squinted his eyes and thought for a moment before speaking, "Not enough, we need to add more money. Newcomers and new books, seeking recommendations, comments, support, and collections." End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Million Year Soul Skill. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Million Year Soul Skill. Upon hearing this, Tang and Yabei were both somewhat stunned. They considered whether Huo Yuhao might refuse directly or accept it gladly due to his commoner background. "But I didn't expect the other party to say such a thing, it's really unexpected. Joining is possible, but I need a large amount of gold soul coins as support. Do you have them in your sect?" Despite almost no intersection, the plot of inviting himself to join the Tang clan still occurred, and Huo Yuhao was completely certain that Tang San was behind it. Since that's the case, in order to prevent Tang San from taking other actions, it's not impossible to join. After all, Douluo world is different from other magical worlds and there is no such thing as a contract. Moreover, joining the Tang clan does not require swearing a martial soul to activate the power of rules that may exist in the underworld. As for the possible killings that may occur after defection. To be honest, Huo Yuhao did not even consider the current Tang and Yabei in his eyes, although his soul power was only 13 levels on the surface. But when using the power of the heavenly dream ice silkworm to pair with the second martial soul, he has confidence in killing them both in seconds within 3 breaths. Tang awkwardly held her hands in front of her, nervously rubbing them, blushing and looking at Yabei on the side with some embarrassment. After all, even the foundation of the Tang clan has been taken away by the Iron Blood clan. Without a basic industry, they still have to learn how to make hidden weapons and maintain their cultivation at Shrek Academy. My own qualifications are not outstanding, and without the help of Yabei, the great-grandson of Mu'en, it would be difficult for me to continue my livelihood. Upon hearing this, Yabei also frowned a bit. After all, although she was Mun's grandson, Mun did not actually give her too many privileges, and most of the resources still had to be fought for by herself. The amount that one can prepay in the Jubao Pavilion each year for daily cultivation and use by Tangya must be repaid. Although there are occasional gold soul coins deposited during battles with Su Sancher in the soul fighting field, to be honest, this money can only be considered better than nothing for the soul master, a profession that burns money. But in terms of Huo Yuhao's demonstrated qualifications and Tangya's expectations, if he could use the golden soul coin, he would be included in the sect, which would be like making a huge profit. Let's do it, brother Yuhao. Although I don't have much gold soul coins at the moment. But in the treasure trove of Shrek City, if you need it, I can purchase items worth no more than 1 million golden soul coins for you every year. What do you think? Huo Yuhao nodded at the words, knowing that this was probably the highest treatment that Yabei could offer. And originally, I was planning to join the Tang Sect just to numb Tang San, and this 1 million gold soul coins is for nothing. Who wouldn't love it? Seeing Huo Yuhao nod in agreement, Tangya's face showed a happy smile, and her heart was filled with joy and joy. For some reason, she seemed to have seen the day when the Tang clan rose again. And the little bit of divine energy left by Tang San was also quite satisfied and hidden again. Huo Yuhao, apprentice. There are only 3 people in Tang Men now, and there aren't so many rules. You bow to me and call me teacher instead. From now on, you will be a member of our Tang Men, Tangya said solemnly. Huo Yuhao nodded and bowed, although it was different from what Tangya had originally expected. But it's also possible that Yuhao comes from a commoner background and doesn't understand so many rules, so she didn't say much. Very good, Yuhao. From now on, you will be the second disciple of the teacher. I have seen your senior brother, she said as she pointed to Yabei beside her. Senior brother. Huo Yuhao nodded to Yabei, with a smile on his face. After all, this may be his future gold lord for the next year. Junior brother, don't be polite. We'll be a family from now on. Yabei smiled and took out a black belt with round white jade inlaid on it. This is a storage soul guide that imitates the soul guide held by Tang San, the ancestor of the Tang clan, on the 24 bridges of the bright moon night. It can be considered as a gift for you to meet me. And Tangya was also afraid that Huo Yuhao would run away, so she took out a book from her storage soul guide. Huo Yuhao, this is a copy of our Tang Sect Xiantian treasure record. It records our Tang Sect's unique skills. They are Xiantian Gong, Xuanyu Hand, Purple Extreme Demon Eyes, Controlling Cranes and Capturing Dragons, Hidden Ghosts and Mistakes, and 100 Solutions to Hidden Weapons. Among them, Xiantian Gong can be considered one of the top cultivation techniques in the mainland, and it is only enjoyed by our Tang men. Just now, I saw that your martial soul should be the body martial soul eye, which should be quite compatible with the Purple Extreme Demon Eye. Xuanyu Hand, Crane Control, Dragon Capture, and Ghost Hidden Mist are also considered first-class self-created soul skills, and anyone can cultivate them. As for the 100 solutions to hidden weapons, it is the foundation of our Tang Sect's establishment. Once you have mastered the first 5 essential skills, I will teach you the mysteries of them again. Taking the Xiantian treasure record and pretending to be cautious, Huo Yuhao said, Good Xiaoya teacher, I will definitely practice seriously. In fact, now that Huo Yuhao has inherited the memory of Electrolux, the so-called Xiantian Gong is really not worth it. After all, this is the version after Tang San's castration. And it cannot be ruled out whether there may be a back door set up by Tang San among them. However, perhaps it can be used to learn from the meditation ideas of the Holy Demon Continent and create a unique meditation method with the help of the will of the heart. After all, the essence of Xiantian Gong is still a Taoist internal mental technique. Although it is unknown why it is in the hands of the Tang clan who use hidden weapons, it focuses on the development of the body. And meditation is more about the development of the brain and mind. Perhaps the two can complement each other's strengths. With perfect control over soul power, Huo Yuhao was soon able to proficiently use the 24 bridges of Bright Moon Night. Seeing this scene, Tang nodded in satisfaction and said, Huo Yuhao, your senior brother and I came out this time to hunt soul beasts and increase soul rings. Follow us first, and after I finish hunting, we will return to Shrek Academy. Huo Yuhao nodded nonchalantly, as his ultimate goal for this trip had already been perfectly achieved. The next step was to plan step by step. Following the thread of the original work, gradually influencing the plot of the original work, ultimately finding one's own breakthrough point. Tang walked ahead, Yabei followed closely behind, and Huo Yuhao followed last. The three of them headed towards the direction of the starry forest. Tang and Yabei were shocked to find that although Huo Yuhao was just a soul master, his physical fitness was not much worse than that of a quasi-soul master and a soul master, and he could completely keep up with their speed. No wonder the first soul ring can absorb a soul ring that is close to 1,000 years old. Is this the true essence of martial soul? It is truly a natural talent. Before long, the three of them delved deep into the vicinity of the mixed zone. On the left side of the three, Huo Yuhao's spiritual power keenly detected two winged baboons that seemed to be watching closely. Tang was about to take action when he saw Huo Yuhao's soul ring flickering under his feet. Then, for some reason, the two winged baboons fought fiercely together. In the end, both of them died, transforming into two white soul rings. What's going on here? Newcomers and new books, seeking recommendations, comments, support, and collections. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Million-Year Soul Bones. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Million-Year Soul Bones. Did you do this, Huo Yuhao? What's going on? Tang and Yabei couldn't help but wonder as they watched this eerie scene. This is my first soul skill, which is mentally chaotic. It can make people or soul beasts with lower mental strength go crazy, but the duration is not long, Huo Yuhao said casually. In fact, these are 4 million-year soul skills brought to him by Tianmeng Ice Silkworm. Unlike the original work, the traveler who has always been unable to integrate into this world naturally does not allow their own spirit to be shared with others. Therefore, under the distortion of the heart's will, the 4 soul skills become spiritual detection. By fully covering the surrounding area with spiritual power, and then integrating its information after the spiritual power recovers from the sea of spirits, all intelligence about the coverage area of spiritual detection is calculated and presented in a 3-dimensional form in the mind, with extremely high accuracy. Spiritual connection. Force the connection of units with lower spiritual power than oneself, and can also connect oneself with others. As the spiritual power becomes stronger, the number of connections that can be made increases, and the duration is extremely long. Spiritual mimicry. Various situations and possibilities can be simulated in the mind through mental power, but it will not cause any interference with reality. The higher the mental power, the more refined the mimicry is. Spiritual incarnation. Dividing a part of one's own spiritual power into an independent part, which can be used independently. The two winged baboons just now were actually connected by Huo Yuhao's spiritual incarnation and his spirit, distorting the perspective detected by the spiritual incarnation into spiritual mimicry and feeding it back into the minds of these two winged baboons, ultimately interfering with their 6 senses judgment, causing them to see each other as enemies and die together. Tang Yajing nodded thoughtfully, and suddenly Beibei's face changed drastically. Xiaoya, be careful. Grasping towards Tang with his right hand, he controlled the crane and captured the dragon, but Tang did not hesitate. He then stepped on the ground and launched the ghostly mistake, which was captured by Yabei. A pitch-black shadow instantly fell to the ground. Immediately after, a strong sweet aroma rushed towards me. Huo Yuhao was wrapped in a light blue soul power barrier around his body to cover the invisible and colorless wall of his heart, which truly had a defensive effect. 2 halos rose from Tang Ye's feet at the same time, bright yellow flowing up and down. It is precisely the fixed combination of blue-silver grass that has been passed down for thousands of years, with blue-silver grass entangled and parasitic. Xiaoya, please protect Yuhao, Beibei whispered as 3 soul rings rose from her body in a layer of blue dragon scales wrapped in thunder covered her upper body. Subsequently, the lightning on the right arm flickered, transforming into a dragon claw-like lightning phantom and attacking the mandala snake. As a 1,000-year-old soul beast, the mandala snake naturally does not sit idly by and leaps suddenly to avoid the attack of dragon claws. Tang Yajing wanted to use blue silver to wrap around and pull Huo Yuhao away. In mid-air, the mandala snake suddenly twisted its body wildly as if fighting against something. Upon seeing this, Beibei's eyes lit up, and the third and second soul rings lit up. A thunder web enveloped the mandala snake in mid-air, and the thunder dragon claw behind the mandala snake, which had been dodged, was also pulled back. He forcefully suppressed it to the ground, and Beibei's figure turned into a shadow. A dragon claw on his right palm, which was half the size of before, fell towards the head of the mandala snake, knocking him unconscious. Actually, it was Huo Yuhao who secretly added a spiritual shock, manipulating his own spiritual power to use, not a soul skill. It seems that this mandala snake is careless, otherwise the Millennium Soul Beast wouldn't be so easy to deal with. The battle went unexpectedly smoothly, and Beibei couldn't help but breathe a sigh. The timing of Huo Yuhao's soul skill release just now was very clever. Although it wasn't for a long time, if it weren't for Huo Yuhao's help, it would have been difficult for me to cause this thunderous strike on the mandala snake. Xiaoya, hurry up, take advantage of his lack of resistance and kill him quickly to absorb soul rings. Isn't that what you've always wanted? Tanya nodded and held a flying knife about half a foot long, piercing through the snake's mouth that Beibei had pinched open, ending the life of the millennium-old mandala snake. A purple soul ring rose. Tanya patted her chest and said happily, I didn't expect it to go so smoothly. Please help me protect the Dharma. Then he sat on the ground and began to absorb the mandala snake's soul ring. Beibei looked at Tanya, who had absorbed the third soul ring, nodded, and then looked at Huo Yuhao and said, Junior brother, are you okay? It seems that the venom of the mandala snake has come into contact with your soul power just now. The venom of a 1,000-year-old mandala snake can even erode soul power, so be careful. Huo Yuhao shook his head and said, It's okay, I'm fine. Seeing Huo Yuhao's face as usual, Beibei didn't say much. In fact, Huo Yuhao's soul power had no contact with the venom of the mandala snake. This non-attacking type of influence ability is almost impossible to affect himself within the wall of the heart. The wall of the heart, apart from its strong resistance to direct attacks, is actually more resistant to various non-direct abnormal effects. Moreover, in addition to the heart wall, the external soul bone brought by the heavenly dream ice silkworm to Huo Yuhao also determined that Huo Yuhao could not be affected by the millennium-old mandala snake venom. As a million-year soul beast, Tianmeng ice silkworm's external soul bone brings 4 soul bone skills. Second Sea of Consciousness. Providing Huo Yuhao with a second spiritual sea. Why can Huo Yuhao transform his spirit into an unbridled connection with others? Because even if he is subjected to backlash, it is borne by the second sea of consciousness without affecting his most important first sea of spirit. Realistic simulation. It can simulate extremely realistic illusions, which can only be seen in front of divine-level experts. This is the truth about the color of the first soul ring. The simulated soul skill produced by the million-year dream ice silkworm cannot be seen through even the extreme Douluo. Heavenly silk cocoon. Condensing spiritual power into a silk cocoon to control enemies, even fierce beasts find it difficult to break free in a short period of time. An extremely powerful control-type soul skill, although it is a spiritual attribute, causes physical control, which is equivalent to early exposure to the materialization of spiritual power. It is difficult to break through with general physical or mental attacks. Feather transformation. Physical fitness will improve synchronously with the increase of soul power, and it will also be strengthened by one's own spiritual power. This is the last soul bone skill that the heavenly dream ice silkworm brought to Huo Yuhao, and it is also the most powerful one. Even the original Heavenly Dream Ice Silkworm did not possess it, but it was formed through the possibility of breaking through the cocoon and feathering under the influence of the will of the heart. Every level of soul power improvement will bring about a transformation of Huo Yuhao's body. It should be noted that this is a change that only ordinary Super Douluo level powerhouses will experience, gradually increasing the essence of their body. And spiritual power also feeds back on the body, forming a virtuous cycle. Nowadays, Huo Yuhao's physical fitness can even easily withstand a 1,000-year level soul ring. However, in order to not be eye-catching, he imitated the first soul ring as a soul ring close to 1,000 years old. Not long after, Tang had absorbed the soul ring and was about to summon Yabei and Huo Yuhao to leave. Huo Yuhao spoke up and said, "Teacher Xiaoya, senior brother, what is this?" Immediately pointed to the dead mandala snake on the ground. Newcomers and new books, seeking recommendations, comments, support, and collections. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Arriving at Shrek. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Arriving at Shrek. I feel like there is still a lot of soul power condensed inside this snake. What's going on? Huo Yuhao pretended not to know. As a powerful mandala snake among 1,000-year soul beasts, its probability of appearing soul bones is much higher than that of the wind baboon, which can also be considered a weak chicken among 10-year soul beasts. Originally, I just casually activated my heart to try my luck, thinking that if there was a soul bone, Yabei and Tang wouldn't be in the mood to teach me Xiantian Gong anymore, so I didn't have to think about how to get by. After all, I didn't really want to cultivate this thing. But to his surprise, he actually stumbled upon it. Did he, as a traveler, inherit the unparalleled fortune of the original owner? Huo Yuhao's mood was a bit complicated, thinking. After carefully examining the body of the mandala snake, Yabei's face changed and he dug out a soul bone from it, which turned out to be one of the rarest body bones. Is this a soul bone? Tang exclaimed in surprise, who could have thought that this rare chance could make her encounter it. Yabei looked at Huo Yuhao with a somewhat serious expression, just about to say something. Senior brother and teacher Xiaoya, let's return to Shrek City as soon as possible. Soul bones and soul rings are different, and not only the killer can absorb them. Moreover, in our current position, there may be other soul masters coming at any time, Huo Yuhao said as if considering the two of them. Yabei nodded solemnly and said, Xiaoya, put it away, let's go quickly. Upon seeing this, Tang dared not hesitate any longer. After collecting the body bone of the Millennium Mandala snake into the storage soul guide, he quickly led Huo Yuhao and Yabei towards the direction of Shrek City. Along the way, the three of them were speechless. As Huo Yuhao had thought, Tang and Yabei had no mood to guide him to practice Xiantian Gong and purple extreme magic eyes. Along the way, except for necessary rest, the three of them could almost be said to have rushed at full speed. It took about 2 days for the three of them to return to Shrek City, and they were all a bit embarrassed. However, Yabei and Tang also breathed a sigh of relief in their hearts. After all, they both came out behind the back of their master and obtained an extraordinary valuable soul bone. Without the support of their master, they dare not be careless. After arriving at Shrek City, Yabei and Tang also relaxed a lot and began to explain to Huo Yuhao about the history of Shrek College and this Shrek City. Specifically, there were praises for Shrek Academy, praise for the 7 monsters from thousands of years ago, and introductions to some common sense. Although Huo Yuhao didn't take it seriously in his heart, he still pretended to be respectful and nodded in agreement. In Huo Yuhao's observation, there were actually a large number of well-trained soul masters in the legendary Shrek City, which had no private army. There was no uniform attire, and it was said that Tang and Yabei said that these were all soul masters who respected Shrek Academy. However, it is almost imaginable that Huo Yuhao, these people are likely to be the city defense forces of Shrek City. Although there are no private troops on the surface, they can only understand what they say in secret. When they arrived at Shrek Academy, 10 huge stone statues 10 meters high came into view, among which the one in position C was naturally the sea god Tang San. His statue was exceptionally carved and was crowded in the center by other statues. Huo Yuhao, this is Shrek Academy. Let's go to Shrek Square to register for you first. With your qualifications, you will definitely shine at Shrek Academy. Tanya excitedly said, after all, if Huo Yuhao shines brightly in the academy, the possibility of Tang men wanting to make a name for themselves again will be even greater. After all, for herself, her qualifications and martial souls are too mediocre, and she does not have any talent for soul guides. After passing through the so-called Sea God Lake, under the influence of his heart, Huo Yuhao felt that there seemed to be a hidden power beneath the lake. However, at this time, he did not delve deeper. His current strength was still too weak to do more. The main goal now is to gradually develop at Shrek College for a period of time and obtain sufficient resources. Now that Alex has memories, he can also conduct some research on magic himself. Led by Yabei and Tanya, and reported by Huo Yuhao, the registration went very smoothly. Huo Yuhao had long known that the homeroom teacher of the freshman class was Zhou Yi, but he himself was after her, or rather her husband. Sail Feather. This 8th level soul mentor. As a traveler, Huo Yuhao knows the potential of soul guides, but for him, there are too many areas where he needs to research and develop himself. Although soul guides have potential, they are not worth taking up too much of one's time for someone with the power of Electrolux inheritance and belief. However, there is a magic in the inheritance of Electrolux that can read the memories of others. If one can have long-term exposure to Hanyu, as long as they find the opportunity to burn his memories. After all, although Fanyu's soul power cultivation is good, it is obviously easier to get started compared to the first and second deans of Shrek's soul guidance department. This can save a lot of time and gain valuable experience in repetitive research. For oneself who possesses the meaning of the heart and millions of years of soul beast spiritual power and soul power, although it may be a bit troublesome, it is not impossible. Teacher Xiaoya and senior brother, are you busy? I'll go back to the dormitory first. Huo Yuhao collected his things for enrollment and nodded at the two of them, without mentioning anything more about soul bones. Tang Yigang was about to say something when he was stopped by Yabei. Then he whispered to Huo Yuhao, that trunk bone is a millennium-level soul bone, and it is also one of the most important parts. The market value is about 3 million gold soul coins, which will be even higher at the auction, but Xiaoya has absorbed the soul ring of the mandala snake. If this trunk bone can be absorbed, it will definitely be of great help. The mandala snake's hunting of you also contributed, but I hope you can give this soul bone to Xiaoya, and I will compensate you in other ways. Do you think it's okay? Huo Yuhao smiled slightly and nodded. To be honest, he had no regard for this soul bone. Being able to skip the step of being forced to cultivate Xiantian Gong was very satisfying for himself. After thinking for a moment, Yabei spoke up and said, put away these 1,000 gold soul coins first. As for the rest, I will come to you later. Why not take extra credit now? After all, for oneself, all of this is just fleeting. After parting ways with Tanya and Yabei, Huo Yuhao came to the front of the dormitory building and saw an elderly person who looked very old. The old man was wearing a gray cloth suit, and the wrinkles on his face were enough to trap 2 or more flies at the same time. His eyes were dim and yellow, his eyelids drooping, and he looked like he was in his twilight years. Relying on a semi-reclining seat, it was the dragon god Douluo and Moon. Huo Yuhao just glanced lightly and didn't pay attention. He took the dormitory key and went straight upstairs. Ah, another proud child. Moon closed his eyes and enjoyed the warm sunshine on his body, looking drowsy. After opening the door, a murky breath emanated from it, and the dormitory was covered in dust. Huo Yuhao's face remained unchanged. With a wave of his hand, his soul power was unleashed, transforming into tiny palms, quickly cleaning up the dormitory. After all, the place he lives in still needs to be slightly organized, and as for the more detailed areas, he is too lazy to clean them up. After all, for him, as long as he can live, there is not much attention to detail. Newcomers and new books, seeking recommendations, comments, support, and collections. End of this chapter.